basic goods and food, Gorbachev was begging the U.S. for economic aid just to kind of keep the country together and fed. And I think Putin sees that as humiliating weakness, that you're basically panhandling, groveling in front of your enemies. The fact that Gorbachev allowed these princelings around him, the presidents of, or the heads of the republics of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus, to get together behind his back and dismantle this great empire, is to him the ultimate weakness. And it is an inability to control your subordinates, an inability to spy on them sufficiently and to control their movements and their, what they do. I think to him, Gorbachev was just one of the most despicable leaders of Russia. And the fact that when Gorbachev died, he did not go to his funeral tells you everything you need to know.
There are these meetings where American presidents are trying to understand Vladimir Putin, and Bill Clinton is the first one. George W. Bush famously says that he looked into Vladimir Putin's eyes and saw his soul. I mean, did we have any idea of who Vladimir Putin was? Did American presidents have any idea of who Vladimir Putin was?
I don't think Russians really knew who Vladimir Putin was. He was still a relatively unknown guy. He, was a pretty gray functionary who didn't have much of a public footprint. And the other thing about Vladimir Putin is he actively shaped the impression he made on American presidents. On December 31st, 1999, Boris Yeltsin nominates him to be his successor. And then in March of 2000, he has to get elected president. Kremlin spin artists and political strategists have just 3 months to slap together a presidential campaign. And they get these 3 hotshot political reporters who interview Vladimir Putin, his friends and relatives, and they basically slap together this memoir, which is basically a long Q&A, and call it In the First Person, and they put it out there as a kind of introduction to the Russian people of who this man is. One of the people they interview is his childhood friend, the cellist who later becomes basically a Putin shell company. But when Putin starts working in the KGB, this friend starts asking him, but what is it you really do? What is it you really do in the KGB? And Putin tells him, I'm a specialist in communicating with people. And this is something that this friend keeps repeating later. He says, my friend is a specialist in communicating with people. And you see it later when Putin starts communicating with American presidents. You can see how he shapes himself in accordance with whoever it is he's talking to. So when he meets George W. Bush, he knows that he's talking to a born-again evangelical Christian who has had a literal come-to-Jesus moment. And so in one of his first meetings with George W. Bush, he brings this little cross that means a lot to him, that his mother took to Jerusalem to have it sanctified in Jerusalem, that he used to wear all the time. And